You'll notice I'm not in my normal studio. I'm in York visiting my sons at uni, so forgive the backdrop and the weird lighting. But we're talking about Netflix's new Ballerina movie.
나야. 발레리나.
Chung Hwan Lee directed a movie on Netflix originally called The Call,
20년 후에다.
which I quite liked. Interesting premise.
순간으로 사람 인생이 바뀐다니까.
He again helms this sort of action assassin film, but it's not what you expect. Let's jump in. Grieving the loss of a best friend she couldn't protect, an ex-bodyguard sets out to fulfill her dear friend's last wish, sweet revenge. Okay, so this film is only an hour and a half long, but because of the way the premise is set up, the way the story is set up, it feels much longer than that. And this is how it goes. So you have an initial action sequence that was pretty cool and great to watch and setting up what we'd expect to happen throughout most of the film. But the majority of the film, and I'm not kidding, there's an hour of setting up who the bad guy is for the bad guy's sake. But just kind of showcasing how bad the bad guys are, everything that they get up to, what they do, the organization. There's a little bit of detective work for the revenge plot storyline. There's someone else that our revenge protagonist has to help, and so we spend an hour before we get to the last action extravaganza, the 20 minutes at the end of the movie, which is the part that you're probably wanting to see. Now, I don't mind some backstory, and I don't mind building up those characters. And we have some flashbacks throughout that hour, kind of cementing the best friend friendship.
내 친구 중에 발레하는 애.
But I really don't think they needed to spend that much time on it. We get it. And especially as that hour doesn't give us any more emotional
사냥 비슷한 거야.
I guess, content that makes us like the characters more or root for them more. You are already rooting for them because at the beginning you see how despicable these people can be. The premise is set up very early. So what happens is it ends up feeling like a really drawn out kind of revenge story, and you're just always wanting to get there.
딱 한 번만 물어볼게.
In the middle of that hour that's kind of setting everything up, we do have an action sequence, and it looks beautiful, but it's so fast and frenetically cut that you can barely see what's going on.
내가 너 지옥까지 쫓아올 거야.
There are so many interconnected cuts that I was like, wow, this looks like a stunning fight. But unfortunately, I don't get to see what's happening because they don't have faith in their, I don't know, their choreographer or the actress, or they're trying to make it more aesthetically pleasing. And what ends up happening is they make it much less enjoyable to watch, which is even more mind-boggling because when you get to the end sequence, there is a good 10-minute fight sequence with gung fu, hand-to-hand combat, you know, Krav Maga sort of action sequences where they're using stuff around them that we get to see. Pretty much all the way through, and it's very creative and very interesting to watch. And it's not fast cut connected. There are some fast cuts, but lots of wide shots. You get to see what's happening. So it bogs my mind as to what they were trying to do earlier on. Too creative, too far, maybe one or two less edits before that, and drawing it back to the part where you could still see what was going on would have been great. Now for me, surprisingly, the best thing about this movie is the cinematography and the lighting. That combined union of the aesthetic color palette that they're going for in this film is beautiful. There's very little shots in this that I wasn't going, well, that's stunning, or that's pretty. The way it's shot, some reflections. There's a motorbike scene where a motorbike just like driving, just riding towards whatever part of the story they're trying to push forward, and the reflection of the water was so stunning with the neon bright lights. I was just like, damn, this is a really pretty film. I'm really impressed by the cinematography on this. Like the whole way through, I was like, it feels so pretty. It feels like an arty film. And then when you get to that hour of drawn out storyline, again, it kind of cementing going, oh, look what I can do, look what I can show. It's only an hour and a half and it has no right feeling that long. I do wish there was another big action sequence along the way. There was a setup earlier where our protagonist gets stuck in a dodgy hotel room, and I thought they were setting up their version of the raid where she now has to fight her way out, and that was going to be the majority of the movie. For a moment I was massively excited, going, oh, this is going to be so cool. So when we do get those action sequences, the characters that portray the bad guys and the protagonists, they are believable in their fighting sequences. The cinematography in all is really beautiful to watch, and I think the acting is believable for what they've been given. But because they spend so much time on backtracking through flashbacks, showing how bad the bad guys are, it halts the flow, the tempo, the tone that we start out with, and then we jump back to that. It feels like we're watching two movies, that of a best friend relationship and then that of a best friend relationship broken because of somebody else. So it is that, which might throw some, if you've watched the trailer, it might come off like another classic assassin film or bodyguard revenge film. It is that in there, and the ending is somewhat satisfactory, but because you spend so much time, you might have already checked out. Thankfully, I waited until the end and managed to get myself invested in some of those moments and enjoyed some of the creativity of the action that was showcased. The brutality, it is pretty gory in places, pretty dark in places, which you'd expect for this kind of storyline, what they're setting up. We're thinking the John Wick.
It's John Wick.
And taken.
I can tell you I don't have money, but what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I've acquired over a very long career.
Mashed together, but having a more cultural specific nuance in there of this film. So I was diving around with what to score this, because I was as low as 2 because of that timing, but I was as high as 4 because of the action sequences and the look of it. So I'm going to go 3 Nicolas Cages out of 5.
And you got one. Congratulations.
Let me know your thoughts and feelings about the acting, the type of action, the different type of take on the revenge story. Love to know your thoughts below. Thanks so much for watching, but most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.